Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today's video tackles a topic that has sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond, the sudden passing of one of cinema's most acclaimed talents, Gene Hackman. This video serves not only to inform, but also to honor his extraordinary life and legacy. We'll discuss the circumstances surrounding Gene Hackman's death at the age of 95, the simultaneous passing of his wife Betsy and their beloved dog, and the many factors that made his life story so fascinating. We'll also explore the career milestones that turned him into a living legend long before these tragic events. Finally, we'll raise questions about death, its suddenness, its mystery, and the ways in which we come to terms with losing those we admire. For many of us, waking up to the headline Gene Hackman, Oscar-winning actor, found dead at 95 along with wife and dog in Santa Fe, felt surreal. Gene Hackman's presence in Hollywood had been a constant for over 6 decades. Even after he'd stepped back from acting, his influence remained palpable. The discovery of not just his body, but also that of his wife, 63-year-old Betsy Arakawa, referred to in some reports as Betsy Arava, and their dog at their home on Sunset Trail in Santa Fe has left fans reeling. The Santa Fe County Sheriff, N. Mendoza, confirmed the tragic discovery. While details remain under investigation, the sheriff's office has indicated that no foul play is immediately suspected. Initial statements suggest that the authorities were called in just after midnight on a Wednesday to perform a welfare check, or possibly in response to some sort of alert. Whatever the impetus, what officials found was heartbreaking. The sight of the legendary actor, his wife, and their dog lying lifeless has raised more questions than answers. Did they pass away peacefully together, or did a medical event take place? Was this a planned departure from life, or did fate orchestrate this final, tragic scene? Even the most stoic fans couldn't help but react emotionally, remembering how Hackman had been a constant cinematic figure from the late 1960s well into the early 2000s. The news quickly spread across social media, with an outpouring of tributes from fellow actors, directors, producers, and fans. A beloved figure in Hollywood, Hackman garnered not only accolades, but also deep respect for his craft and work ethic. It's as though an entire generation of movie lovers has lost a father figure of sorts, someone who, though advanced in age, still felt like an abiding presence in the tapestry of American film. A key piece of information that Sheriff Mendoza shared was that, at this time, we do not believe foul play was a factor. Nevertheless, an active investigation is underway, and law enforcement is seeking a search warrant to fully examine the premises. An official cause of death for Hackman, his wife Betsy, and their dog has yet to be disclosed, but speculation abounds. Some wonder whether carbon monoxide poisoning might be responsible, a silent killer that occasionally claims the lives of entire families. Others think a medical emergency, perhaps a heart attack, could have struck Hackman and then, in the chaos, led to further tragedy. Or was Betsy facing a critical medical episode that Hackman tried to handle himself, only to succumb as well? Such scenarios are heart-wrenching, but they underscore life's unpredictability and fragility. One moment, everything seems routine, and the next, an entire household is gone. Fans and media alike are now asking questions. How is it that 3 lives could simultaneously come to an end with no apparent signs of struggle or foul play? Did Hackman's advanced age play a role, or was there something else at work? The dog's inclusion in this tragedy only deepens the sense of sorrow, as pets are often like family, loyal companions who offer unconditional love. For now, the Santa Fe authorities have kept a tight lid on further details, likely to avoid speculation overshadowing facts. Whatever the official findings may be, the heartbreak among colleagues, friends, and fans alike remains profound. Their immediate response has been an outpouring of recollections and tributes, many pointing out how Gene Hackman was not just a movie star, but a deeply committed craftsman. Before diving deeper into the circumstances surrounding his passing, let's take a moment to remember the life he led, a life that began far from the glitz of Hollywood. Born in California in 1930, Hackman's early life was marked by a restless spirit and a desire for adventure. As he himself shared in past interviews, he felt a need to break away from a mundane path and define his own destiny. His father worked in a printing press, and his mother was a waitress. Though Hackman seldom spoke in detail about his upbringing, it's generally known that his childhood was tinged with family struggles, including financial instability. This environment may have planted in him a certain grit and determination that would prove indispensable in his acting career. At 16, Hackman lied about his age to enlist in the Army, an act that foreshadowed his fierce independence. According to the transcript of the tragic news video, it said he served for 4.5 years, though other historical records indicate that he actually served in the Marine Corps. Regardless, his time in the military instilled in him discipline, an appreciation for hard work, and perhaps a stoic resilience that would later inform some of his most iconic on-screen roles. Once he left the service, Hackman found himself drawn to the bustling energy of New York City. He harbored an interest in journalism and radio broadcasting initially, but it was acting that ultimately ignited his passion. In those early days, he studied at the Pasadena Playhouse alongside fellow aspirants like Dustin Hoffman, forging connections that would last a lifetime. However, Hackman's path was far from linear or guaranteed. He was reportedly once voted least likely to succeed by his classmates, an ironic prophecy that he would shatter in spectacular fashion. When Hackman finally began auditioning for roles, he quickly realized that Hollywood wasn't going to welcome him with open arms. Rejections came in droves. He was in his mid-30s when roles started trickling in, and it took the mentorship of a few key figures to help him find his footing. Often cast in small TV parts and off-Broadway plays, Hackman slowly earned a reputation for his no-nonsense approach and ability to anchor scenes with a grounded, intense presence. His turning point arrived with 1967's Bonnie and Clyde, in which he played Buck Barrow, the brother of Warren Beatty's Clyde Barrow. The film was a cultural phenomenon, shattering taboos with its depiction of violence and gangster life during the Great Depression. Hackman's portrayal earned him his first Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Though he didn't win that night, the nomination catapulted him into a new league of actors. Suddenly, the industry took notice. The man once deemed least likely to succeed was now being hailed as a force to watch. From there, Hackman's career soared. In 1970, he landed another Oscar nomination for I Never Sang for My Father, playing a conflicted son struggling to connect with his aging father. The role showcased his ability to convey deep-seated emotions with a subtlety that many actors lack. Audiences and critics alike recognized that Hackman's depth came from the well of personal experiences he'd drawn upon, from his challenging childhood to his years in the military. The absolute game-changer for Gene Hackman arrived in 1971 with William Friedkin's The French Connection, a gritty crime thriller in which he portrayed Detective Jimmy "Popeye" Doyle. Not only did the film become a box office smash, but Hackman's performance garnered him the Academy Award for Best Actor. Everything about Doyle's gruff exterior and relentless pursuit of justice seemed to fit Hackman's own no-frills personality. In interviews, Hackman admitted that tapping into Doyle's relentless nature wasn't difficult. He felt the role aligned well with his own unwavering dedication to his craft. In 1992, he earned a second Academy Award, this time for Best Supporting Actor, for Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven. As Little Bill Daggett, Hackman created a character that was at once menacing, self-righteous, and deeply human. His scenes with Eastwood remain some of the most memorable in modern Western cinema. The film upended the traditional Western archetype by exposing the psychological toll of violence, and Hackman's brutal yet nuanced portrayal added further texture to a genre frequently dominated by stoic gunslingers. These two Oscars not only cemented his status as a Hollywood powerhouse, but also highlighted the remarkable breadth of his talent. He could be both a lead capable of commanding an entire film and a supporting actor who brought added dimension to a story. Hackman displayed a near-mythic range, making him an enduring household name. The French Connection and Unforgiven may have been his crowning achievements in terms of awards, but Hackman's filmography brims with unforgettable performances. He is famously remembered as Lex Luthor in the Superman films opposite Christopher Reeve. His portrayal of the genius villain, bent on real estate domination, was both menacing and, at times, unexpectedly comedic. Hackman's approach to Luthor made the character accessible and oddly charming, influencing how future generations would perceive superhero villains. He also starred in Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation, 1974, playing a surveillance expert ensnared by the moral ambiguities of his profession. The film offered a subdued, introspective Hackman, far different from the more aggressive personalities he portrayed elsewhere. That year, The Conversation was overshadowed by The Godfather Part 2, but critics singled out Hackman's performance as quietly groundbreaking in its exploration of paranoia and guilt. Then there was Mississippi Burning, 1988, in which Hackman portrayed FBI agent Rupert Anderson. Teaming with Willem Dafoe, Hackman investigated racial murders in 1960s Mississippi. Nominated for another Oscar, his portrayal struck a chord with audiences by vividly capturing the frustration and moral complexity of trying to uphold justice in a deeply segregated society. Other notable credits include Hoosiers, 1986, where he played a small-town basketball coach facing personal and professional challenges, and Crimson Tide, 1995, in which he and Denzel Washington commanded a submarine laden with nuclear missiles, illustrating a riveting battle of wills. Indeed, Hackman rarely pigeonholed himself. He embraced everything from thrillers to sports dramas, comedies to war epics, to comedic roles such as in Wes Anderson's The Royal Tenenbaums, 2001, where he played the eccentric family patriarch with equal parts exasperation and charm. What made Gene Hackman so universally admired by directors, co-stars, and fans alike? Insiders often spoke of his formidable work ethic. Hackman was known to arrive on set meticulously prepared, having studied the script and his character's motivations in granular detail. He was not one for flamboyant method acting or showy displays of technique. Rather, he honed a direct, realistic approach that gave his characters authentic emotional weight. Yet, Hackman was also known for his aversion to fame. Despite receiving Hollywood's highest honors, he frequently expressed discomfort with the public trappings of stardom. He rarely granted interviews or made public appearances unless they aligned with a film's promotion. He once noted in an interview that he struggled with the idea of being recognized everywhere he went, finding it invasive. In that sense, he was as far from a self-promoting celebrity as one could be, preferring instead to let his work speak for itself. This temperament endeared him to directors who found in him a consummate professional, and to audiences who felt that his real-life humility stood in stark contrast to the imposing personalities he often played. If anything, this tension between Hackman's private self and his public roles created a mystique, making him all the more captivating to watch. Betsy Arakawa, sometimes reported as Arava or Arakawa in different sources, entered Hackman's life after his divorce from his first wife, Faye Maltese. Gene's first marriage lasted from 1956 to 1986, producing 3 children. His life took a new direction when he met Betsy, a classical pianist who also studied business and had a flair for various ventures. They married in 1991 and had been together ever since, leading a relatively private life away from the media glare. Many fans might not know that Betsy was not only Hackman's partner in life, but also someone he credited for providing him emotional stability in his later years. Some of Hackman's friends reported that she tempered his occasional bouts of frustration, bouts that sometimes erupted on set. After all, one does not become an actor of Hackman's caliber without a fierce temperament lurking underneath. Their marriage was described by insiders as a balanced union of opposites, the intense actor and the serene musician-entrepreneur. As for how they wound up spending their later years in Santa Fe, New Mexico, that choice reflected Hackman's preference for quieter surroundings. They cherished the relative solitude, open landscapes, and culturally rich environment. Santa Fe had become Hackman's sanctuary, a place to paint, write. He co-authored several historical novels and escaped the relentless demands of Hollywood. Though he never issued a grand retirement announcement, Hackman's last significant film role was in 2004's Welcome to Mooseport, a comedy in which he played a former U.S. president up against Ray Romano's small-town everyman. Reviews were lukewarm, but it was notable as the final cinematic appearance of one of Hollywood's most revered figures. Over the years, reporters would ask if he might return for a cameo or short role, but Hackman resolutely maintained his absence. He seemed at peace with the idea that his time in front of the camera had passed. In interviews and statements post-retirement, he emphasized a desire to focus on writing and painting, 2 creative outlets that lacked the intense scrutiny and pressure of filmmaking. He wrote several historical fiction novels, including Wake of the Perdido Star, Justice for None, and Escape from Andersonville, often in collaboration with under-the-radar authors. While these novels didn't make him a literary superstar, they further showcased his lifelong need to explore different forms of storytelling. Like many older actors, Hackman occasionally faced rumors about ill health. Tabloid headlines would speculate about surgeries or hospital visits. In most cases, these turned out to be either false alarms or exaggerated accounts of routine medical checkups. Hackman himself was fairly private about his health, only occasionally acknowledging the normal wear and tear of aging. With the recent discovery that Hackman, Betsy, and their dog were found deceased together, the question looms: what really happened inside that Santa Fe home on Sunset Trail? There were no reported break-ins, no visible injuries, and initial statements by Sheriff Mendoza suggested that the scene lacked the hallmarks of violence or struggle. How can 3 beings, 2 adults and a pet, die simultaneously with no apparent foul play? Could it have been carbon monoxide poisoning? It is a silent killer, often undetectable until it's too late. Could it have been a tragic medical emergency, like a stroke or heart attack that affected Hackman first and caused Betsy to succumb to either shock or a similar event while trying to help him? Or could both have been battling illness privately, deciding they would rather leave the world on their own terms? At this juncture, the public is grappling with these possibilities, and fans are left to wonder if we'll ever know the real story. Sometimes final truths remain elusive, especially if the individuals involved led private lives. If any medical condition was known to the couple, they certainly kept it away from the public eye. Despite occasional rumors of frailty due to his advanced age, Hackman was never reported to be on the brink of death. Within hours of the official announcement, social media platforms lit up with tributes from colleagues, friends, and admirers. Fellow actors like Robert Duvall, Al Pacino, and Dustin Hoffman contemporaries from the golden era of 1970s American cinema offered heartfelt farewells. Directors such as Francis Ford Coppola, Ron Howard, and Clint Eastwood issued statements praising Hackman's artistry and the generous spirit he brought to each project. Younger generations of filmmakers, including Quentin Tarantino and Christopher Nolan, weighed in, calling Hackman an iconic inspiration. Tarantino once mentioned that Hackman's performance in The Conversation was a lesson in minimalist acting, while Nolan recalled how Unforgiven shaped his view of moral ambiguity in cinema. Fan-run accounts posted clips of Hackman's greatest movie moments, from his comedic banter as Lex Luthor to his dramatic intensity in Mississippi Burning. Even the sports world paused to acknowledge the passing of Coach Norman Dale from Hoosiers, a character who had become a symbol of perseverance in the face of adversity. Basketball teams tweeted references to Hackman's role, noting how his portrayal of a small-town coach with big ambitions had resonated with sports enthusiasts for decades. In an age where social media often fractures attention, the near-universal tribute to Hackman's memory illustrated the breadth and depth of his influence. With Hackman's passing, Hollywood loses yet another link to an era that prized character-driven storytelling over spectacle and special effects. Alongside names like Marlon Brando, Paul Newman, and Jack Nicholson, Hackman represented a generation of actors who brought an almost theatrical intensity to the screen, forging intimate, flawed, and deeply human characters. His death also serves as a stark reminder that even our greatest cultural titans are not immortal. We often think of celebrities as existing outside the normal constraints of time, but death doesn't differentiate between the famous and the unknown. Hackman lived a long, fruitful life, reaching 95, an age many of us hope to see ourselves. Yet the sadness we feel is still acute, amplified by the simultaneous loss of his wife Betsy, who was 63, and their loyal canine companion. What does it mean for a couple and their beloved pet to exit the stage at the same time? Did they fear the idea of living without each other? Or was it a tragic coincidence? We often dwell on the concept of a good death, passing peacefully in one's sleep or reaching an advanced age. Hackman's death, though, seems surreal in its timing and the completeness of loss. It begs the question, is there solace to be found in the fact that they were together in the end? For some, the idea that neither had to endure life without the other offers a small measure of comfort. Death, especially of figures we admire, tends to bring forth existential questions. Why are some lives cut short while others extend into the mid-90s? Is there a way to prepare ourselves for the inevitable departure of those who shaped our worldview? And for individuals who achieve so much acclaim, does death overshadow their accomplishments or merely put them into sharper focus? In Gene Hackman's case, one might argue that his death illuminates just how profoundly he influenced modern acting. The roles he chose, the awards he garnered, and the relationships he forged all weave a complex tapestry of a life that was both public and intensely private. In these moments, fans might also wonder about the ephemeral nature of fame. Hackman had not appeared on screen for nearly 2 decades, yet the sorrow we feel is no less acute. Perhaps it's because we've realized that a living link to a formative era in cinema is now gone. We also question our own relationships with the stars we admire. Could we have shown more appreciation while they were alive? Did we take for granted that Hackman would always be there, quietly retired in Santa Fe, to remind us of what real acting looks like? These reflections often haunt fans when icons pass. As the authorities move forward, the main goal is to determine the exact cause of death. An autopsy and toxicology reports will likely provide clarity. If it turns out to be something like carbon monoxide poisoning, the conversation may turn to preventive measures and public awareness, urging families to install detectors in their homes. if it was a shared medical condition or a series of unrelated health crises, fans and the media will inevitably piece together how this tragedy might have unfolded moment by moment. In the midst of such speculation, it's important to remember that the Hackman family deserves privacy and respect. We may never know every detail of what transpired in the early hours of that fateful Wednesday. The question remains, does the general public truly need that level of granular detail? Some argue that, as a public figure, Hackman's final chapter should be transparent, while others insist that the dignity of a private end is something to be honored. Nevertheless, the sadness felt by those who revered his work is very real. The weight of losing a pillar of cinematic history, particularly under these murky circumstances, is heavy. Yet the outpouring of grief online also demonstrates our collective need to celebrate what he left behind. Gene Hackman was not just Jimmy Popeye Doyle or Little Bill Daggett. He was a man who spent his formative years searching for direction, found it in acting, and never lost his sense of purpose. He pushed boundaries on screen, taking on roles that challenged audiences to confront issues of morality, justice, and empathy. In private, he was a man of measured words, preferring quiet reflection over showy displays. His marriage to Betsy lasted more than 3 decades, a testament to the strength of their bond, and they spent those years largely out of the spotlight. Furthermore, Hackman dabbled in painting and writing, proving that creativity doesn't have to end when the cameras stop rolling. To fans, his journey should be a beacon of inspiration. Success can come later in life, resilience matters, and integrity in one's craft can lead to timelessness. If we learn anything from Hackman's career, perhaps it's that authenticity resonates longer than trendiness. As we wrap up this extensive look at Gene Hackman's life and the tragic news surrounding his death, we're left with multiple layers of emotion: shock, sadness, and a profound gratitude for what he contributed to film. The circumstances of his passing remain puzzling. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office may uncover details that either confirm suspicions of a tragic accident or reveal a more intricate medical or personal narrative. We might find definitive answers, or we may not. What we do know is that Gene Hackman's legacy is an enduring gift to cinema. His characters spanned decades and defied easy categorization. He made us root for flawed heroes, sympathize with complex antagonists, and see ourselves in the stories that played out on screen. In a film industry that often prioritizes spectacle, he was a torchbearer for nuance and depth. Now, as we contemplate the fragile boundary between life and death, we might ask ourselves, how do we choose to memorialize figures like Hackman, whose careers impact millions of lives? Should we let rumors and sensational headlines dominate the narrative, or focus instead on the body of work that will continue to inspire future generations of actors and filmmakers? These aren't easy questions, but they highlight the role we play as audiences in shaping cultural memory. Hackman once said in an interview that he hoped to be remembered as someone who did good work, worked hard, and tried to keep it honest. In the end, that might be the best epitaph we can offer. Thank you for joining us in this heartfelt tribute to Gene Hackman. We've gone on a journey through the highlights of his life, from his humble beginnings in California, through his military service, his rise to stardom, and the many accolades that confirmed his status as one of the greatest actors of his generation. We've delved into his choice of roles, his relationship with Betsy, and the quiet retirement he embraced. And of course, we've discussed the tragic and puzzling news of his passing, along with Betsy and their dog, leaving the world to question how such an event could occur without any evident sign of foul play. If there is anything to take away from this moment, it is that our heroes, no matter how revered, are ultimately human. They live, they love, and they leave this world as any of us might. In remembering Gene Hackman, let us celebrate the enduring mark he left on cinema. Let us also hold close the lesson that life is fragile, time is precious, and even legends are mortal. We invite you to share your favorite Gene Hackman films or roles in the comments section. How did his performances shape your love for movies? Do you remember where you were when you first saw The French Connection or Unforgiven? What about Bonnie and Clyde, Superman, or The Royal Tenenbaums? Let's create a space where we can collectively grieve, but also celebrate a career that brought joy and inspiration to countless people around the world. If you found this video informative or moving, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to our channel. We'll continue to bring you in-depth looks at the lives and legacies of Hollywood's brightest stars. For now, we sign off in sadness, but also in reverence for the man who left an indelible impact on the art of filmmaking. May Gene Hackman, his wife Betsy, and their loyal companion rest in peace.
If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.